Hey guys, Dr. Nathan Warren here. I'm going to be going over a topic that we really wanted to expand on. We talked a little bit about it on our last radio show on the Wellness Radio with Drs. Warren, and so I wanted to make sure that we are addressing this in detail, mainly because gut issues are one of the most prevalent things that we see come into our clinic. On a regular basis, we're looking at anywhere from 8 to 9 out of 10 people that walk into our clinic doors have some type of digestive issue going on. Now, the thing is, most people don't always realize that it's a digestive issue. Sometimes people don't relate things like skin issues to the way that their gut is functioning. Sometimes people don't relate like the way that they eat and are unable to break down their food to a gut issue. Sometimes they don't relate their migraine headaches to a gut issue or their hormone problems to a gut issue. But when we're looking at the gut overall, it's vitally important to just about every function of every cell in our body. So we know that it's involved in the way our immune system works. Anywhere from 70 to 80% of our immune system lives within the gut. We know that things like even the way certain hormones are made and converted in the gut. We know that the way we break down our food, the way it's assimilated and actually utilized in a cell, again, it's all related to the way the gut is functioning. So we have to have a properly functioning gut if we want to express health at our fullest capacity. Now, the topic I'm going to be going over tonight is SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Now, this is one that's gotten a lot more steam over the last couple years. But before that, really nobody was talking about it or treating it very much. And it was kind of just something that was maybe thrown on the back burner, not really thought about. But SIBO is a very, very common thing that we see in our clinic. And really, when you're looking at SIBO, I want to kind of get this out of the way. When it comes to the gold standard test of the breath test, I'll tell you right now, it's highly inaccurate. It's highly, highly inaccurate. However, it's considered the gold standard of diagnosing something like SIBO. So even though something like a stool test or a PCR DNA test, like a GI map test, the one that we use, it's not technically a diagnostic tool for SIBO or a gold standard for SIBO, but I'll tell you right now, we see a lot of different trends that show us that SIBO could possibly be there. And then along with the symptoms of that person, we're able to see that SIBO's there and really go after it and see absolutely amazing life-changing results in the lives of patients. And so what are some of the symptoms? Like, how do you know if you have an overgrowth of bacteria and microorganisms in the upper part of the intestine? So things like gas and bloating, specifically after eating foods, whether they're things like fermented foods or spicy foods, or even things like garlic or onions. If you notice any type of gas, bloating, or even things like belching, or even things like hiccups, right? If you notice that almost directly after eating some of those foods, there's a possible sign you might have an overgrowth in the small intestine. Things like diarrhea, could be constipation, but it's more along the lines of diarrhea. B12 deficiency, so consistently being deficient in B12. Anemia, so having things like iron deficiency. Eczema or rosacea, seeing some issues with the skin. Again, if you see an issue on the skin, there's always an underlying gut issue, especially in the realm of autoimmune disease. Things like irritable bowel syndrome or irritable bowel disorder. Food sensitivities. This is a big one. SIBO will create a lot of food sensitivities. And so again, they'll eat a certain food, like somebody will consume broccoli, and they're like, man, every time I eat broccoli, I'm getting like this gassiness or this bloating, or I have my skin reacts to something that's an absolute healthy food, right? A food sensitivity that's created there. Things like fibromyalgia, because of something called lipopolysaccharides and the toxins that are produced by the bacteria in the upper intestine can really create a downstream effect of inflammatory issues and cytokine triggers in the body, and really create some fibromyalgia. It can also affect tryptophan, which again, looking at that amino acid, it's absolutely when it's absolutely necessary. Whenever tryptophan is affected, it affects your ability to produce serotonin, which then affects your ability to produce melatonin. That's why fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome can be thrown into these as well. And then fat malabsorption, especially if you're seeing fat in your stool, so kind of that floating stool and mucousy stool. Again, that's not a good thing. That means you're not breaking down your fat because of the issue in the small intestine. Now, what are some of the primary causes of SIBO? So decreased motility. So again, not being able to move food, move bacteria through the digestive system, peristalsis. Now, I would even say that sometimes a decrease in motility is not always the primary cause, but actually a symptom of SIBO for a long period of time. We know it actually affects something called the migrating motor complex, which, think of it as basically a bundle of the nervous system that supplies that upper small intestine to move food out and to move bacteria out over time so it doesn't ferment in that upper part of the gut. Decreased stomach acid. This is one of the primary reasons why SIBO can show up, because somebody's having stomach acid issues for a long period of time. Things like neuropathy, so intestinal neuropathy from somebody that's had diabetes for a long period of time, and that's really created something called gastroparesis, which means that their digestive system, and especially that upper small intestine, is not moving food the way it should. It's not pushing food through the digestive system very well, so it's damaging the nerve system in that area. Physical blocks, so something like maybe cancer or Crohn's disease, something with a lot of inflammation there. Diverticulitis, certain medications like antibiotics, guys. We've overused antibiotics, something that could be life-saving in the right situation. We've overused it and created a lot of issues in our gut microbiome. Things like PPIs, so proton pump inhibitors. Guys, one of the most toxic drugs on the planet, and if you really want to increase your risk of things like cardiovascular disease, continue to take a PPI. It's one of the hardest medications to get a patient off of, and it really does a lot of damage to the vagus nerve. Acid blockers and steroids. Guys, they hand out steroids like it's candy, especially for patients with lower back pain and other pain in their bodies or inflammation in their bodies. So what are some of the solutions? How do you start taking care of SIBO? So number one is remove, right? So you've got to remove certain things. So you got to remove what's creating the problem to begin with. So if you're on one of these medications, hey, you got to figure out why you're taking the steroids. Maybe you've got pain. Take care of the lower back pain first so that your doctor is able to work you off of something like those steroids. So we got to remove them. The other part of the removal part of the process is to take something like natural killers. So we use things like Biocide, which again, guys, all of the supplements I'm talking about, if you go on doctorswarren.com, we have a shop there that you guys can go to, our Welevate store there. You can actually check those out. But we use some natural killers, so things like Biocide, and it contains things like bilberry and golden seal and garlic and things like especially the extract, like more of the allicin in it. It contains things like even olive leaf extract and oregano, some of those natural killers there. And there's many others. We like to use things like Antrantil, which is a fantastic one, especially in the realm of SIBO, and GI Microbe X by Designs for Health. And then utilizing some binders to grab onto those toxins and to grab onto some of those dead microorganisms in the gut. If all you're doing is killing and you're not binding what you're actually killing, you're going to be in big trouble, and you're going to see some symptoms show up, sometimes even more than the symptoms that you saw earlier. Once you get through that stage there, then we're going to the restoration stage, and that's really where we restore proper digestive function. Now, I really like to utilize some of this in the first step as well, but making sure that we're increasing hydrochloric acid production, and we're making sure that that's doing really, really well. So that can be as simple as you adding in something like apple cider vinegar, in water 10 minutes before a meal, or it could be all the way up to actually supplementing with things like actually things like ox bile and things like certain types of enzymes and digestive enzymes to help you break down your food, emulsify again some of the fat that you're consuming as well, and really just improving overall the digestive function. Now you've also got to get that migrating motor complex moving. So some people will use things like GI Motil Plus, which is a great one that you can use, or you can use something like Iberogas, but there's several MMC ones. Again, if you go on our Wellevate store, you can find a few of those. You've got to get that migrating motor complex restarted. That's why we love chiropractic care, right? Because you're able to work on the nervous system, which again is really what's supplying your digestive system overall. And then the final one is rebalance. You have to heal the terrain. You have to heal the environment so that it doesn't continue to come back over time. And so that includes things like adding in spore form probiotics, things like Megaspore Biotic, or things like even Proflora 4R by Biobotanical Research. But adding in those really good microorganisms help to be naturally selective and kill off bacteria that shouldn't be there, and help to proliferate bacteria that should be there, and again go to the right area of the digestive system, resetting the terrain. You can use things like prebiotics, you can use things like ion biome, but really just creating an amazing terrain. And again, diet has to do with that terrain as well, right? So making sure that you're eating whole foods, more along the lines of a paleo style diet, or even a paleo keto style diet. If you also need to work on blood sugar, insulin, things at the same time, things like GAPS, or even things like a low FODMAP paleo diet are fantastic to utilize as well. So hopefully this gives you guys some building blocks on really what SIBO is, what to do about it, and how you can actually start to take care of it on your own. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure that you stay tuned, because we're going to be going over more in the upcoming days as well, as far as the digestive system goes. I hope you guys have a great night and go achieve your health.